Janice Atkinson, do you think it's a fair deal now at upcoming council? Is it sufficient for Great Britain to stay in the European Union?
Well, no, we don't actually know the final details of what was negotiated, but what was really, really frustrating and rude of David Cameron was to refuse to come to the Conference of Presidents today. I was there representing my group, the ENF. We would have had Nigel Farage. Instead, it was Roger Helmer who represented the UK. But it's very, very rude to think that Cameron, after accepting an invitation to attend the Conference of Presidents, can just walk away. It's unacceptable that Schulz entertained him with just 3 groups. There were 4 groups there that were not represented today. It wasn't just the ENF and the FDD that was quite disgusted by this. The Greens also walked out, and the hard left. I find myself agreeing more and more and more with Mrs Zimmer, who actually castigated the President and David Cameron. Either he recognises that we all have to agree on this, or we don't. And so what's on the table? Well, very little, actually, because the free movement of people is totally off the table. That was stated by every single group. Now, that's unacceptable in my country. And also, the Greens, and from my side of the House as well, and also the left, agree that social benefits that can't be paid to migrants, and it's the use of the word migrants that the left and the Greens find totally unacceptable. I find that unacceptable because we're either all EU citizens or we're not EU citizens. You can't have second-class citizens saying you can't have child benefit, you can't have in-work benefits, because basically it's ever closer union, and if you want us to stay in the EU, we're all equal. I can't imagine the Poles, the Bulgarians, the Romanians agreeing to have these opt-outs. It's just unacceptable.
Janice Atkinson, do you think it doesn't look to me, but it's a democratic procedure of dealing with such a huge issue as Great Britain in the European Union? How can you explain that in this very democratic institution, the European Parliament, there are things like that possible?
Well, it isn't possible because you can't exclude the hundreds of the MEPs that the 4 groups represent, whether it's from the right, the left and the Greens. That's very undemocratic. I mean, I actually agreed with Mr Schulz, which is very unusual for me as well, because he said, look, what am I supposed to do? I'd been castigated in the British press if I hadn't agreed to see Cameron. I'd be castigated if I had agreed to see Cameron. So I can understand his point, but where Schulz went wrong was he could have had a private meeting. So he should have had the meeting with him, he should have chaired the meeting, Mr Cameron should have come to that meeting, and all the 7 heads of delegations should have been in that meeting. We could have had a closed in-camera meeting, but he chose not to, so it's a stitch up. And Mrs Zimmer and the Greens walked out, and I don't blame them. I stayed for the duration, and I told them why actually any settlement would not be agreeable to my country, because fundamentally, still in there, in the draft agreement, is the free movement of people, and that's unacceptable in the UK.
Janice Atkinson, does it mean that you don't expect anything from the upcoming council?
I don't expect anything, and apparently the draft agreement will be published tomorrow. Mr Cameron has to go home and sell that to his own cabinet. It's unacceptable to an awful lot of his own cabinet, and then he's got to sell it to the British press. And at the moment, the British press are very, very hostile, from left or right, very, very hostile, and the UK citizens are just not buying this deal.